She was sliding the last bill across the counter when the man in the wool coat reached across and stopped her hand. "Keep your money," he said quietly. His eyes never left hers. "Please." Maya froze. The diner had gone still around them. Her daughter Lily sat in the booth behind her, coloring with crayons they'd found in her backpack, because Maya couldn't afford the kids' activity kit. The stranger's grip on her wrist was gentle but firm. He wasn't backing down. "I don't take charity," Maya whispered, pulling her hand back. But her voice cracked on the last word because they both knew the truth. That $23 was everything she had left until Friday, and it was only Tuesday. The man let go, but he didn't move away. Instead, he did something that made the hair on Maya's neck stand up. He glanced at the chipped Formica counter, at the exact spot where the corner had been broken off years ago, and smiled. Not at her, at the counter itself, like he was remembering something. How did he know that spot? Maya had only been coming here 3 weeks, but his face held the kind of familiarity you only get from years, from ownership. She looked at him again, really looked, and her breath caught, because for just a second, just one impossible second, his eyes held the same amber brown her mother's eyes used to hold before she disappeared when Maya was 9. But that was crazy. That was grief talking. That was 17 years of unanswered questions, making her see ghosts and strangers. "Who are you?" she asked. He opened his mouth, closed it. Then the diner's back door slammed open, and a woman in a manager's vest came storming through, already shouting, "Mr. Bennett, I told you not to." She stopped when she saw Maya. Her expression shifted from anger to something colder. Calculation. "Ma'am, is this man bothering you?" And just like that, the moment shattered. But here's what you need to understand about that moment. About what happened when the stranger touched Maya's wrist and looked at that broken counter like it held a secret. Because 2 days earlier, Maya Reyes had walked into the Blue Harbor Diner for the first time with her daughter, $27 in her pocket, and absolutely no idea that the building itself was watching her. 2 days earlier, Maya had been sitting in her car outside the elementary school, waiting for Lily's dismissal, when the eviction notice finally made sense. Not the legal sense. She'd been reading and rereading the same paragraph for 10 minutes, but the practical sense. 30 days. She had 30 days to find a new place, pack up their life, and pretend to her 6-year-old daughter that this was an adventure and not a catastrophe. The apartment had been small, but it had been theirs, hers and Lily's, the only space she'd ever managed to keep stable for more than a year. And now it was gone because the landlord's nephew wanted to flip it into a luxury rental. Maya had done everything right, paid on time, kept it clean, followed every rule. And it hadn't mattered. The school bell rang. Kids poured out like a flood of backpacks and noise. Maya folded the notice and shoved it into the glove box next to the past-due electric bill and a rejection letter from the loan office. Then she fixed her face into something that looked like a smile, because Lily didn't need to see her mother breaking. "Hey, baby girl," Maya called as Lily ran toward the car, braids bouncing. "Mama, guess what? I got a gold star on my reading." Lily held up a paper with a glittery sticker in the corner. "That's my smart girl." Maya hugged her tight, breathing in the strawberry shampoo smell of her hair. "You hungry?" "Starving." They couldn't afford to eat out. Maya knew that. But she also knew that Lily had been eating peanut butter sandwiches for 4 days straight because groceries didn't stretch the way they used to. And maybe it was stupid, maybe it was reckless, but Maya wanted one meal where her daughter didn't have to ration. So she drove past their usual route home and took the coast road instead, where the old neighborhoods gave way to the waterfront. She didn't have a plan. She was just driving, just trying to outrun the eviction notice and the electric bill and the weight of every decision that had led them here. That's when she saw it. The Blue Harbor Diner sat at the end of a gravel lot, overlooking the water. It wasn't fancy. The paint was weathered, the sign had a burnt-out letter, and the parking lot had more potholes than asphalt. But there was something about it that made Maya slow down. Something familiar, even though she'd never been there before. "Can we eat there?" Lily asked, pressing her face to the window. Maya checked her wallet. $27. Enough for 2 meals if she ordered carefully, if she skipped her own drink, if she didn't tip much. She hated herself for doing the math. Yeah, she said. We can eat there. The inside of the diner was exactly what you'd expect. Red vinyl booths patched with duct tape. A jukebox in the corner that probably hadn't worked since the 90s. A long counter with spinning stools and a pass-through window to the kitchen. It smelled like coffee and frying butter and something else Maya couldn't name. Something that felt like memory. They slid into a booth by the window. Lily grabbed a laminated menu and started reading out loud, sounding out the words. Maya let her. It was good practice. And it gave Maya a minute to look around. There were only a few other customers. An elderly couple in the corner. A man in a trucker's cap at the counter. And near the back, sitting alone in the booth closest to the kitchen, a man in a wool coat despite the mild weather. He wasn't eating, just sitting there with a cup of coffee, staring at the table like it owed him answers. Maya looked away. Not her business. A waitress appeared, young and tired-looking, with a notepad already out. What can I get you? Maya ordered the cheapest item she could find. Grilled cheese and fries for Lily. A side salad for herself. Water for both of them. The waitress wrote it down without comment, but Maya saw the flicker of judgment in her eyes. The recognition of someone counting pennies. It burned, but Maya swallowed it down. She'd gotten good at swallowing things. Lily chattered about school while they waited. About her best friend Emma, who could do a cartwheel. About the class hamster who'd escaped and been found in the art supply closet. About the field trip to the aquarium next month that cost $15 per student, and Maya had no idea how she was going to afford. We'll figure it out, Maya promised, even though she had no idea how. The food came. Lily dove into her grilled cheese, like she hadn't eaten in days, which wasn't far from the truth. Maya picked at her salad, making it last, chewing slowly, so Lily wouldn't notice she was still hungry. That's when the man in the wool coat stood up. Maya noticed because he moved wrong. Not threatening, just uncertain. Like someone trying to remember how to walk in a place they used to know by heart. He approached the counter, spoke briefly to the waitress, then looked around the diner. His gaze landed on Maya. She looked away, focusing on Lily. But she could feel him staring, could feel the weight of it. A minute later, the waitress appeared at their table again. Excuse me, ma'am. The gentleman at the counter wanted to. We're fine, Maya said quickly. We don't need anything. The waitress blinked. He just wanted to. I said we're fine. The tone came out sharper than she meant, but Maya had learned the hard way that accepting help always came with strings, always came with expectations, and she couldn't afford either. The waitress retreated. Maya felt the man's eyes on her for another long moment before he finally sat back down. Who was that, Mama? Lily asked. Nobody, baby. Just somebody trying to be nice. Why didn't you let him? Because nice isn't free, Maya thought. Because nothing is free. But she couldn't say that to a 6-year-old. Finish your fries, she said instead. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Lily asked, Are we going to be okay? Maya's chest tightened. Of course we are. Why would you ask that? Emma's mom said her parents are struggling. Emma cried about it at recess. Are we struggling? Maya wanted to lie, wanted to tell her daughter that everything was perfect, that they had nothing to worry about, that the world was kind and fair and good. But Lily was smart. Lily noticed things. We're figuring things out, Maya said carefully. But we're going to be okay. I promise. It was the only promise she had left to give. They finished eating. Maya asked for the check. The waitress brought it folded in half, $12.60. Cheap for 2 people, but still a quarter of what Maya had left. She counted out the bills, added 50 cents for a tip, because she couldn't bring herself to leave nothing, and slid it all into the checkbook. That's when the man in the wool coat appeared at their table. Excuse me, he said quietly. His voice was rough, like he didn't use it much. I don't mean to intrude, but... We're fine, Maya said, not looking up. I know. He stopped. Started again. I own this place. The diner. And I wanted to. We paid our bill. I know. But I wanted to. Maya finally looked at him. Really looked. And that's when she saw it again. The amber brown eyes. The way he held himself, like he was carrying something heavy he didn't know how to put down. The way his gaze kept flicking to Lily, then back to Maya, like he was trying to memorize them. "What do you want?" Maya asked. He opened his mouth, closed it. Then he did something that made absolutely no sense. He reached into his coat and pulled out an old Polaroid photograph. The edges were worn, the colors faded, but Maya could still make out the image. A young woman standing in front of this very diner, holding a little girl in her arms. The woman was smiling. The little girl wasn't. Maya's heart stopped. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. The man's hand shook slightly as he held the photo. "I've been looking for you for a long time," he said. And that's when the manager came storming through the back door, already shouting his name. But let's pause here for a second, because before we get to what happened next, you need to understand what Maya didn't know yet, what she couldn't know, about why that photograph existed, about why this stranger owned a diner in a town Maya had only moved to 3 months ago, about why his eyes looked so much like her mother's, about why, 17 years ago, a woman named Sarah Reyes walked out of her daughter's life and never came back. Sarah had been 23 when she had Maya. Too young, everyone said. Too unprepared. But she'd tried. She'd gotten a job at a diner 2 towns over, worked double shifts, kept Maya fed and clothed and housed. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Then Sarah's brother died. Car accident. Sudden. Brutal. He left behind a restaurant, this restaurant, and a will that said Sarah would inherit it if she could keep it running for 5 years. Sarah's brother had been the responsible one, the one who'd made something of himself, the one who tried to help Sarah when she got pregnant, who'd offered her money she'd been too proud to take. The guilt nearly killed her, but the restaurant was a lifeline, a chance to build something stable for Maya. So Sarah packed up their life, moved to Blue Harbor, and started running the diner. She worked herself to exhaustion, skipped meals, slept 4 hours a night, all so she could pass the 5-year mark and give Maya a future. Then the loan sharks came. Sarah's brother hadn't just left her a restaurant. He'd left her his debts. Debts to people who didn't care about inheritance timelines or single mothers or 8-year-old daughters. They wanted their money. And when Sarah couldn't pay, they made it clear what would happen if she didn't disappear. They'd come for Maya instead. So Sarah ran. Not because she didn't love her daughter, but because she did. She left Maya with a neighbor who'd agreed to take her in, left a note that said she'd come back when it was safe. And then she vanished, leaving behind only debts and questions, and an 8-year-old girl who would spend the next 17 years wondering what she'd done wrong. The loan sharks took the diner, sold it. It changed hands 3 times before a man named Jonathan Bennett bought it 6 months ago. Jonathan was Sarah's younger brother, the one who'd been too young to help when Sarah ran, the one who'd spent his entire adult life looking for his sister, trying to piece together what had happened, trying to find the niece he'd never met. He'd bought the diner not because he wanted a restaurant, but because it was the last place Sarah had been happy, the last place that felt like family. And he'd been waiting, hoping, believing that somehow, some way, Maya would find her way back. But none of that explained why Maya was here now, why she'd walked into this specific diner in this specific town at this specific moment. Unless it did. Unless Sarah had left more than just a photograph. Unless she'd left a trail. Breadcrumbs that would lead her daughter home when the time was right. Unless Maya's whole life had been pointing toward this moment, and she'd just been too hurt to see it. Back in the diner, Maya stared at the photograph in the stranger's hand. "I don't know who you are," she said, her voice shaking. "But that's not that can't." "Your mother's name was Sarah," the man said quietly. "She had a scar on her left wrist from a kitchen accident. She hummed when she was nervous. She made the best apple pie you've ever tasted, and she loved you more than anything in the world." Maya's throat closed, because all of that was true. Every single detail. "Who are you?" she whispered. "My name is Jonathan Bennett. Sarah was my sister." The diner tilted. Maya grabbed the edge of the table. "Your sister," she repeated. "I don't have an uncle. I don't have any family. My mother left when I was 8, and she never. She didn't want to leave," Jonathan said. His eyes were wet. "She left to protect you." And I've been trying to find you ever since. That's not no. No. If she wanted to protect me, she would have taken me with her. She would have. She couldn't. There were people looking for her. Dangerous people. If she'd taken you. Stop. Maya's voice cracked. Lily was staring up at her with wide eyes, confused and scared. Just stop. The manager, the woman in the vest, reached them. Mr. Bennett, you need to leave these customers alone. Rachel, it's fine. It's not fine. This is harassment. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Your meal is on the house. I already paid, Maya said numbly. Then I'll refund it. Mr. Bennett, my office. Now. Jonathan looked at Maya. Looked at Lily. His expression crumpled into something that looked like grief. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't mean to. I just thought. He stopped, pulled a business card from his pocket, and set it on the table. If you want to talk. When you're ready, I'll tell you everything. Then he let Rachel lead him away. Maya sat frozen. The photograph was still on the table. She couldn't stop looking at it. At the young woman who looked so much like her. At the little girl in her arms who had her same dark hair, her same serious expression. Mama. Lily's voice was small. What's wrong? Maya shook herself, grabbed the photograph and the business card, and shoved them both into her purse. Nothing, baby. Let's go. She didn't run, but she walked fast, pulling Lily behind her, ignoring the stares from the other customers. She made it to the car, buckled Lily in, and sat in the driver's seat with her hands shaking on the wheel. The business card was simple. Black text on white cardstock. Jonathan Bennett, owner, Blue Harbor Diner. 555-0147. On the back, written in pen, I have letters. She wrote them for you. Please call. Maya's vision blurred. She'd spent 17 years angry at her mother. 17 years believing she'd been abandoned. 17 years building walls so high that nothing could hurt her like that again. And now this stranger was telling her it had all been a lie. Or was he lying? How could she know? How could she trust? Mama, you're crying, Lily said from the back seat. Maya wiped her eyes. I'm okay. Just tired. She started the car and drove home in silence, the photograph burning a hole in her purse. That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya sat on the floor of their tiny apartment and stared at the Polaroid. She'd spent so many years trying not to remember her mother's face, trying not to think about the bedtime stories and the Sunday pancakes and the way Sarah used to sing off-key in the shower, because remembering hurt too much. But looking at the photo now, she couldn't deny it. The woman in the picture was her mother, and the little girl was her. And if Jonathan was telling the truth, if Sarah had left letters, then maybe the story Maya had been telling herself for 17 years was wrong. She picked up her phone, put it down, picked it up again. The call went through before she could change her mind. Hello. Jonathan's voice was rough with sleep. It's Maya. Maya Reyes. Silence. Then, you called. I need to know if you're telling the truth. I am. Then tell me. Tell me why she left. Tell me why she never came back. Tell me. Her voice broke. Tell me why I wasn't enough. You were everything, Jonathan said quietly. You were the only reason she did any of it. Then why? And so he told her. About the debts. About the loan sharks. About the threats that made it clear Maya would pay the price if Sarah stayed. About how Sarah had spent every day since then in hiding, moving from town to town, city to city, always looking over her shoulder, always terrified that they'd find her and trace her back to her daughter. About how she'd written letters to Maya every single year. Birthday letters, Christmas letters, letters that explained everything but couldn't be sent because they'd lead the monsters right to Maya's door. About how Sarah had died 3 years ago in a car accident in Oregon, and Jonathan had found the letters in her apartment, along with instructions. Wait until Maya's older. Wait until she's safe. Wait until you can protect her. About how he'd bought the diner because it was the last piece of his sister's dreams. Because maybe, just maybe, Maya would walk through those doors one day and he could finally give her the truth. Maya listened, and with every word, the anger she'd carried for 17 years began to crack. I want to see the letters, she finally said. Tomorrow. Come to the diner. I'll have them ready. And if I don't believe you, then I'll give you the letters and leave you alone. Jonathan's voice was steady. But Maya, I think you already know the truth. You wouldn't have called if you didn't. She hung up without answering. But he was right. She'd known the moment she saw the photograph. The moment she looked into his amber-brown eyes and saw her mother staring back. She'd known. The next morning, Maya dropped Lily off at school and drove back to the Blue Harbor Diner. Her hands were steady on the wheel, but her heart was hammering. The parking lot was empty. It was only 9 a.m., too early for the lunch rush. Maya sat in her car for 5 full minutes, building up the courage to go inside. When she finally walked through the door, Jonathan was waiting at the same booth by the kitchen. There was a shoebox on the table in front of him. "Hi," he said. Maya slid into the booth across from him, stared at the shoebox. "They're all there," Jonathan said. 17 letters. One for every year. Maya reached for the box, then stopped. "What if I read them and it's worse? What if? Then you'll know the truth, and you'll decide what to do with it." She opened the box. The first envelope was addressed in her mother's handwriting. Maya's name. No address. No stamp. Just her name, written in the same looping cursive Sarah had used to write grocery lists and permission slips. Maya's hand shook as she opened it. "My dearest Maya, today you turn 9. I missed your birthday. I will miss every birthday, and that breaks my heart in ways I can't explain. I need you to know something. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I love you too much to let them hurt you. There are bad people looking for me, baby girl. People who would use you to get to me. And I can't let that happen. I know you're angry. I know you feel abandoned. And you have every right to hate me. But please, please, know that I am thinking about you every single day. I am watching from a distance, as much as I can. I am praying that you are safe and happy and loved. Your Uncle Jonathan will give you these letters when you're old enough to understand. When it's safe. And maybe by then, you'll be able to forgive me. I love you more than the whole world. Mom." Maya's vision blurred. She set the letter down and reached for the next one. And the next. And the next. Each letter was a snapshot of the life her mother had lived in hiding. Lonely motels. Minimum wage jobs. Always moving. Always afraid. But every letter ended the same way. I love you more than the whole world. By the time Maya reached the 17th letter, the last one, written just months before Sarah's death, she was sobbing. Jonathan sat quietly across from her, saying nothing, just being there. "She was protecting me," Maya finally whispered. "Yes, she spent her whole life running. Alone. Scared. And I spent my whole life hating her." "You didn't know. I should have known. I should have." "You were 8 years old," Jonathan said gently. "You were a child. You couldn't have known." Maya buried her face in her hands. The grief was overwhelming. Not just grief for her mother, but grief for the relationship they'd never had. The years they'd lost. The conversations they'd never have. "Why didn't you find me sooner?" she asked. "I tried. Sarah moved you to a different city before she left. Different name. Different school. She made it hard to track you down because she was trying to protect you from the same people who were after her. It took me years to piece together where you'd gone. And by the time I found you, you were already grown. I didn't know if you'd want to hear from me. So you bought the diner." "I bought the diner. And I waited." "That's insane." Jonathan smiled sadly. "Maybe. But I promised Sarah I'd watch out for you, even if you never knew I existed." Maya looked around the diner, at the chipped counters and the worn booths and the old jukebox. It wasn't much, but it was a promise kept. "What happened to the people who were after her?" she asked. Jonathan's expression darkened. "Most of them are in prison now. Or dead. The ones who aren't." He hesitated. "They're not looking for you. Sarah made sure of that before she died." "How?" "She turned state's evidence. Testified against them. It's why she could finally stop running. But by then," his voice cracked, "by then it was too late to come back." Maya closed her eyes. Her mother had spent 17 years running, and then another 3 years in witness protection, and then she died before she could ever come home. It was too much. Too big. Too cruel. I don't know what to do with this. Maya whispered. You don't have to do anything. Just know that she loved you. That's all. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Maya asked the question that had been burning in her chest since yesterday. Why did you give me the photo? In front of my daughter? Why didn't you wait? Jonathan looked down at his hands. Because I saw the way you were counting your money. The way you ordered the cheapest things on the menu. The way you looked at your daughter like you were terrified you couldn't protect her. He met her eyes. And I saw Sarah. I saw my sister 20 years ago, working herself to death trying to give her kid a better life. And I couldn't. I couldn't just let you walk out without saying something. You scared me. I know. I'm sorry. Maya wanted to be angry, but she couldn't. Because underneath the fear, underneath the shock, there was something else. Relief. Relief that she hadn't been abandoned. Relief that her mother had loved her after all. Relief that she wasn't alone. I have questions, she said. So many questions. I'll answer all of them. And I need time. To process all this. To figure out what it means. Take all the time you need. Maya nodded. Stood to leave. Then stopped. The diner, she said. You said Sarah inherited it. From your brother. Yes. Our brother. Thomas. And she was supposed to run it for 5 years. Yes. Did she? Before everything happened. Jonathan shook his head. She got to 4 years. Then the debts came due and she had to run. But, he looked around the diner. She loved this place. It was supposed to be her future. Yours too, actually. Thomas's will specify that after Sarah's 5 years, the diner would go to you. His niece. Maya's breath caught. To me. To you. But she never finished the 5 years. No. The will had a clause that if Sarah couldn't fulfill the terms, the property would be sold, and the money would go into a trust for you. But I bought it before that could happen. And I've been. He stopped. Started again. I've been waiting for you. So I could give it to you. The way Thomas intended. Maya stared at him. You're saying this diner is mine? It's yours. It's always been yours. I've just been taking care of it until you got here. The world tilted again. Maya grabbed the table edge. I can't run a diner. I don't know how to. I'm barely keeping my daughter fed. I'm getting evicted. I can't. You don't have to decide anything today, Jonathan said quickly. I'm not asking you to take over. I'm just telling you the truth. This place is yours. Legally. Financially. Emotionally. Whatever you want to do with it, I'll support you. Maya looked around the diner again. At the cracked vinyl. At the burnt-out letter in the sign. At the space her mother had loved, had fought for, had lost. Her space now. I need to think, she said. Of course. She left without another word, the shoebox of letters clutched to her chest. But here's what Maya didn't know yet. What she couldn't know until it was almost too late. That manager, Rachel, the woman in the vest who'd interrupted Jonathan's confession, she wasn't just a manager. She was Thomas's widow. And she had been expecting the diner to come to her when Thomas died. Not to Sarah. Not to some niece she'd never met. To her. She'd spent years fighting the will. Trying to prove Sarah had abandoned the terms. Trying to get the property transferred to her name. When Jonathan bought the diner instead, she'd thought she'd lost. But then she'd heard Jonathan talking about Maya. About waiting for her. About giving her the diner. And Rachel realized her chance wasn't over. It was just beginning. Because Maya didn't know how to run a restaurant. Didn't know how to handle licenses or permits or health inspections. Didn't know how to manage staff or inventory or profit margins. Maya would fail. And when she did, Rachel would be there. Ready to buy it from her for pennies on the dollar. All she had to do was make sure Maya failed. Over the next week, Maya tried to process everything. The letters. The diner. The uncle she'd never known existed. The mother she'd spent 17 years mourning. She read the letters over and over, memorizing every word, learning about the woman her mother had been, the sacrifices she'd made, the love she'd carried even when she couldn't express it. And slowly, carefully, Maya started to forgive her. She also started to think about the diner. She'd gone back 3 more times, sitting in different booths, watching the flow of customers, trying to imagine herself running it. Jonathan had given her the books, profits, expenses, payroll. The numbers weren't great, but they weren't terrible either. The diner was breaking even, which was more than she could save for her own life. "What do you think?" Jonathan asked during her 4th visit. "I think I don't know what I'm doing." Neither did Sarah. She figured it out. Sarah had for years before everything fell apart. "And you'll have help. I'm not going anywhere." Maya wanted to believe him, but trust didn't come easy anymore. Still, the idea wouldn't leave her alone. A diner, a business, a legacy, a home. On Friday afternoon, Maya made her decision. "I want to try," she told Jonathan. His face lit up. Yeah. I don't know if I can do it, but I want to try." "Then let's do it." They shook hands across the table, and for the first time in 17 years, Maya felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. That's when Rachel made her first move. It was subtle. A health inspector showed up Monday morning, unannounced, asking questions about kitchen practices and food storage. Found 3 violations that hadn't been there the week before. Wrote them up with a warning that any more would result in closure. Jonathan was baffled. "We've never failed an inspection. Not once." Maya didn't think much of it. Health inspectors were random, right? Just bad luck. Then the grease trap backed up. Flooded the kitchen. Cost $2,000 to fix and shut them down for 2 days. Then a vendor called to say their account had been flagged for non-payment, even though Jonathan had receipts proving every invoice had been paid on time. Then the fire alarm system malfunctioned in the middle of dinner service, sending everyone scrambling outside, while the fire department verified it was a false alarm. "It's like the building is falling apart," Maya said, exhausted. Jonathan frowned. "It's not, though. I've kept up with maintenance. This doesn't make sense." "Maybe it's a sign," Maya said quietly. "Maybe I'm not supposed to do this." "Don't say that." "Why not? Look at what's happening. Every time we fix something, something else breaks. Maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. Or maybe someone's trying to sabotage us." Maya stared at him. "Who would do that?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." He installed cameras, reviewed footage, watched the patterns, and he saw it. Rachel, coming in early, staying late, always near the kitchen, always near the problem areas. Jonathan confronted her in the office. "I know what you're doing," he said. Rachel didn't even flinch. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The health inspector, the grease trap, the vendors. You're sabotaging Maya. That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." Rachel smiled. Cold, calculating. "Prove it." And that's when Jonathan realized she'd been smart. Every incident could be explained as bad luck or poor maintenance. There was no evidence linking her directly to any of it. But he knew. "Why?" he asked. "Why are you doing this?" "Because this diner should have been mine," Rachel said simply. "Thomas was my husband. I should have inherited it. Not Sarah. Not some niece who doesn't even know how to run a business. Me. Thomas made his choice. Thomas made a mistake. And I'm fixing it. By destroying what he built. By taking what's mine." Jonathan felt sick. "Get out. Fire me, and I'll sue for wrongful termination. Keep me, and I'll keep making sure Maya fails. Either way, I win. Because sooner or later, she's going to give up. And when she does, I'll buy this place from her for whatever she'll take. And you won't be able to stop me." She walked out, leaving Jonathan standing in the empty office, realizing he'd underestimated her. He called Maya immediately. "We have a problem." He explained everything. The sabotage, the motive, the threat. Maya listened in silence. "Then, what do we do?" "We prove it, and we stop her." "How?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." And this is where everything shifted, because now it wasn't just about running a diner or honoring a legacy. It was about fighting for what belonged to Maya, what her mother had sacrificed everything to protect, and what Rachel was willing to destroy to take. They started building their case carefully, documenting every incident, reviewing receipts, interviewing vendors, piecing together the pattern. It was Rachel who'd called the health inspector, claiming she'd seen rats. Rachel who'd poured grease down the drain to cause the backup. Rachel who'd flagged their vendor account with a fake non-payment complaint. Rachel who triggered the fire alarm manually from the back office. But proving it was different from knowing it. They needed evidence. Hard evidence. So they set a trap. Jonathan told Rachel, loud enough for others to hear, that Maya had decided to officially take ownership. That they were signing papers Friday afternoon. That after Friday, Rachel would be reporting to Maya, not Jonathan. It was a lie, but it was bait, and Rachel took it. Thursday night, Maya and Jonathan waited in the diner after closing. Cameras on. Lights off. Watching. Rachel came in at 11 p.m., using her manager key. She went straight to the office. Straight to the file cabinet, where Jonathan kept the ownership documents. She pulled out the papers. Looked around. Then pulled out a lighter. Now, Jonathan whispered. They turned on the lights. Rachel froze, the flame inches from the papers. Put it down, Maya said. Rachel looked between them. Smiled. You have cameras in the office. We do now. Then you know this doesn't matter. I'll say I was just checking the files. That the lighter was for a cigarette. We also have audio, Jonathan said. From Monday, when you told me exactly why you've been sabotaging us. Rachel's smile faltered. You're done, Maya said quietly. Give me the papers and leave. This diner should be mine. It's not. It never was. Thomas left it to my mother. My mother protected it for me. And now it's mine. Legally. Rightfully. Mine. You'll never make it work. Rachel spat. You don't know what you're doing. Maybe not. But I'll learn. And I'll have help. From him. Rachel gestured at Jonathan. He'll leave eventually. Everyone leaves. Not everyone, Maya said. My mother didn't want to leave. She did it to protect me. And now I'm here, finishing what she started. So take your lighter and your bitterness and get out of my diner. For a moment, Rachel looked like she might fight. Then she dropped the papers on the desk and walked out. Jonathan locked the door behind her. Maya sank into a chair, shaking. You okay? Jonathan asked. I just fired someone. I've never fired anyone in my life. You did great. She's right, though. I don't know what I'm doing. You'll learn. Maya looked at the ownership papers on the desk, at the signature line where her name would go. What if I fail anyway? She whispered. Then you'll fail knowing you tried. That's more than most people can say. She picked up the pen, signed her name, and just like that, the Blue Harbor Diner was officially hers. The first month was brutal. Maya had to hire a new manager, learn the systems, balance the books, handle complaints, fix equipment, soothe anxious staff who'd heard rumors about Rachel's sabotage and were worried about their jobs. She made mistakes, ordered too much of one ingredient and too little of another, scheduled shifts wrong, forgot to pay a vendor on time, burned herself on the stove trying to help during a rush. But she kept showing up, and slowly, the diner started to feel like home. She brought Lily after school sometimes, letting her do homework in a corner booth. The regular customers started to recognize them, started to ask about their days, started to care. Jonathan was there every step of the way, teaching her what he knew, supporting her when she stumbled, celebrating her when she succeeded. Your mother would be proud, he said one night after they'd closed. Maya looked around the diner, at the space her mother had loved, the space that was hers now. I hope so, she whispered. 3 months in, Maya made her first profit. It wasn't much, barely enough to cover groceries for the month, but it was proof. Proof that she could do this, that she wasn't going to fail, that her mother's sacrifice hadn't been for nothing. She started making changes, small ones at first. New paint, better lighting, a refreshed menu with some of her mother's old recipes that Jonathan had saved. The customers noticed. The diner started to fill up again, and Maya started to breathe again. But the best moment came 6 months after she'd signed the papers. She was wiping down tables after the dinner rush when Lily asked, Mama, are we still struggling? Maya stopped, looked at her daughter, at the little girl who'd asked that same question in this same diner 6 months ago, when everything had felt hopeless. "No, baby," Maya said. "We're not struggling. We're building." "Building what?" "Our life. Together." Lily smiled. "I like that." Maya pulled her daughter into a hug, breathing in the strawberry shampoo smell of her hair. "Me too," she whispered. That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya sat in the empty diner and pulled out the 17th letter, the last one her mother had written. "My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, then Jonathan found you. And if Jonathan found you, then you know the truth. I wish I could tell you all of this in person. I wish I could hug you and apologize and explain everything face to face. But if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and all I have left are words. I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I ever did. Every day since has been torture. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone I missed. It broke me a little more. But I also want you to know that I never regretted it. Because you got to live. You got to grow up safe and free and away from the darkness that chased me. And that was worth everything. The diner, if you want it, is yours. Not because of what it's worth, but because it represents what I always wanted for you. A place to belong. A place to build from. A place to call home. You don't have to take it. You don't owe me anything. But if you do, if you choose to carry on what Thomas started and I tried to finish, know that you're not alone. Jonathan will help you, and I'll be watching from wherever I am. So proud of the woman you've become. I love you more than the whole world, Maya. I always have. I always will. Mom. Maya folded the letter carefully, set it back in the box with the others. Then she looked around the diner, and smiled. "I did it, Mom," she whispered to the empty room. "I kept your dream alive." And somewhere, somehow, she hoped her mother heard her. 1 year after Maya signed the ownership papers, the Blue Harbor Diner was thriving. Not just surviving, thriving. Maya had expanded the menu, hired more staff, built relationships with local suppliers, created a warm, welcoming atmosphere that kept customers coming back. She'd also created something else, stability. For the first time in her adult life, Maya wasn't counting pennies, wasn't worried about eviction notices, wasn't wondering how she'd feed her daughter. She was building something, and it was working. Jonathan had stepped back, letting Maya run things her way, but he still came in most mornings for coffee, sitting in his usual booth by the kitchen, watching his niece with quiet pride. "You did good, kid," he said one morning. "We did good," Maya corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you think." Maybe, but she was glad she hadn't had to find out. That afternoon, a woman came into the diner, mid-50s, well-dressed, carrying a leather briefcase. "Can I help you?" Maya asked. "Are you Maya Reyes?" "I am." The woman smiled. "My name is Patricia Lawson. I'm an attorney. I represented your mother in her witness protection case." Maya's heart skipped. "You knew my mother?" "I did. And I have something for you." She opened her briefcase and pulled out an envelope. Thick, sealed, Maya's name written on the front in her mother's handwriting. "She asked me to hold this until you took ownership of the diner," Patricia said. "She wanted you to have it when you were ready." Maya took the envelope with shaking hands. "What is it?" "Open it and see." Maya tore it open. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The letter was dated 3 years ago, just weeks before Sarah died. "My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, then you found the diner. You found Jonathan. You found the truth. And you decided to stay. I'm so proud of you. I always knew you were strong. I always knew you'd make something beautiful out of the broken pieces I left behind." This photograph is from the day I opened the diner with Thomas. It was the happiest day of my life, before you were born. After you came, every day was the happiest. Even the hard ones. Especially the hard ones. Because they were with you. I want you to hang this photo in the diner, so people know the story. So they know this place was built on love, not just business. So they know that family is worth fighting for. I also want you to know that I'm sorry for leaving, for the pain I caused, for the years we lost. But I'm not sorry for loving you. I'm not sorry for protecting you. And I'm not sorry for believing that one day you'd find your way home. You are home now. This is your place. Your story. Your future. Live it well, baby girl. I love you more than the whole world. Mom. Maya looked at the photograph through blurred vision. It showed a younger Sarah standing in front of the Blue Harbor Diner on opening day. She was smiling, really smiling, her whole face lit up with joy. And standing next to her was a man who had to be Thomas, his arm around her shoulders, looking proud. They were family, and they'd built something worth saving. Maya hung the photograph on the wall that same day, right next to the counter, where everyone could see it. She added a small plaque underneath, in memory of Sarah and Thomas, family who built this place with love. Customers asked about it. Maya told them the story. Not all of it, but enough. About the diner that was supposed to be a fresh start. About the mother who sacrificed everything. About the uncle who waited until it was safe to tell the truth. About the legacy that survived because love is stronger than fear. As the months passed, the diner became more than just a business. It became a community gathering place. A space where people felt welcome. Where stories were shared over coffee and pie. Where families celebrated and mourned and simply existed together. And Maya realized something. This was what her mother had wanted all along. Not just a building. Not just a business. But a home. A place where people belonged. A place where love could grow again, even after it had been buried for years. Lily turned 7, then 8. She helped out at the diner on weekends, learning to take orders and clear tables and make change. She asked about her grandmother sometimes, and Maya told her stories. About Sarah's laugh. About her kindness. About her strength. Do you think she'd like me? Lily asked one day. She'd love you, Maya said. More than the whole world. It was her mother's phrase. Her mother's promise. And now it was hers to pass down. Jonathan stayed close. He and Maya had built something more than a business partnership. They built family. The kind that doesn't require blood, just showing up. Just being there. Just caring when it matters most. And on quiet nights, when the diner was closed and Maya was wiping down the last table, she'd look around at everything they'd built and feel her mother's presence. Not as a ghost. Not as a regret, but as a promise kept. A love that survived. A legacy that lived on. 3 years after Maya took ownership, a couple came into the diner late one afternoon. They were young, maybe early 20s, with a baby in a carrier and worry etched into their faces. They ordered the cheapest items on the menu, split a single meal between them, counted coins to pay. Maya watched them from behind the counter, seeing herself 3 years ago, seeing her mother 20 years before that, seeing every person who'd ever struggled to make ends meet while trying to protect what they loved most. She walked over to their table. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Your meal is on the house today." The woman looked up, startled. "We can pay." "I know. But sometimes we all need a little help. And this place was built on people helping each other." She handed them a business card. On the back, she'd written, "If you ever need work, call me. We're always looking for good people." The couple stared at the card, then at Maya. Then they started to cry. Maya understood. She'd been there. She'd felt that desperate gratitude when someone saw you and chose to help instead of judge. "It gets better," she said quietly. "I promise." And she meant it, because she was proof. She was a single mom who'd been one meal away from breaking, who'd walked into a diner with her last $27 and walked out with a future she'd never imagined, who'd been abandoned and betrayed and beaten down by life, and who'd survived anyway, who'd built something beautiful from the broken pieces, who'd honored her mother's sacrifice by living the life Sarah had dreamed for her. As the couple left, Maya returned to the counter where Jonathan was waiting. "You're going to give away all our profits," he said, but he was smiling. "Maybe. But that's what this place is for." Sarah would be proud. "I hope so." She looked at the photograph on the wall, at her mother's smile, at the diner that had survived everything thrown at it. "She gave me this," Maya said softly. "The least I can do is pass it on." And that's what she did. Every day, every meal, every interaction, she passed on the love her mother had given her. The sacrifice, the hope, the belief that family was worth fighting for. even when the world tried to tear it apart. She passed on the lesson that home isn't a place. It's a choice, a commitment, a promise to show up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Years later, when Lily was grown and Maya was older, they'd sit in the diner together and talk about the grandmother Lily had never met, about the uncle who'd waited, about the legacy that had survived against all odds. And Maya would tell her daughter the most important truth she'd ever learned. Your grandmother didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she loved me too much to let them hurt me. And everything she did, every sacrifice, every lonely night, every tear she cried, was so I could have this. So we could have this. Do you think she knew? Lily would ask. That you'd find the diner? That you'd make it work? I think she hoped. And hope is enough sometimes. Because hope is what had brought Maya to the Blue Harbor Diner on that first desperate night. Hope is what had kept Sarah alive through 17 years of running. Hope is what had driven Jonathan to buy a failing restaurant and wait for a niece he'd never met. Hope and love, and the stubborn belief that family is worth everything. So if you're out there right now, struggling to make ends meet, wondering if you're going to make it, remember Maya. Remember Sarah. Remember that sometimes the worst moments of your life are just setting up the best ones. That sometimes the people who seem like strangers are actually family waiting to be discovered. That sometimes giving away your last meal opens doors you never knew existed. And that love, real love, the kind that survives separation and sacrifice in time, never truly disappears. It just waits. For the right moment. For the right person. For you to walk through the door and finally come home. Would you have stopped at that diner? Would you have trusted the stranger? Drop your thoughts below. And if the story moved you, there are more where this came from.